Hey guys, Dee here. I thought I will do a voiceover this time while showing you my bullet journal spread for May. Um, I completely made a mess over here. I just bought some new letter stamps and I still haven't figured out how to put them. I need a nice box like this alphabet that you can see at the top. So at this time I just decided to put them in one line so I can find all the letters in all this mess. This month, as the previous ones, I was going with a space theme in my bullet journal spreads, so you will see some doodles of planets and stars and moons, and I used my new Happy Planner stickers that I bought recently with some nice quotes and stuff. So yeah, just follow along. Yeah, but what I would like to talk about today is my writing projects, because I was talking during my Camp Nano vlogs all month and I don't think I told you enough about my stories, so why not go into more detail? So my current project, or my witchy project as I call it, is a duology about a witch called Thorun and her growth and learning runic magic. She ends up in a secluded castle surrounded by mountains and forests and full of strange and magical things, and in the castle there are other people who are a little bit like her. They are exiled or hidden from the world outside, where, let's say, wrong kind of witchcraft is actually hunted, even though witches are not hunted in general, but the wrong kind is. So here in this castle she's learning her craft and she's just trying to fit in like everybody else, while she's also fighting some otherworldly powers. So this story takes place in an imaginary world. It is a little bit like ours back in time, when I would say only the very first shooting guns were introduced. And I don't know, I'm not trying to portray a medieval Europe, even though lots of fantasy stories do, but I would even say it's on the contrary, because most of the stuff happens in a castle. So the setting is limited to the castle grounds, and I don't show too much of the world, and so the setting is limited. I mention some stuff about the world and other places, other cities. It's, this a tip of the iceberg of the world that I created, but you don't need too much if all your stories happening in one place. My main enjoyment writing these books was the possibility to introduce some Old Norse and Baltic traditions and pieces of mythology, and just imagine magical rituals that could take physical effect or a physical form, while also trying to stay true to the meanings, especially the meanings in the real world that you can find everywhere online in books and stuff. And on the other hand, the story is about a personal growth. I would say it's about changing and shifting your priorities from inner problems and turning your eyes to the problems outside, and instead of helping just yourself, you turn to helping others. Thorun is young, but she is not a teenager, and this book could easily be on the young adult shelf, but I like to think it's for a little bit older audience. It's for people like me, the actual millennials, not the ones that everyone is calling the 20-year-olds right now. For people like me who like fantasy and dark things and magic, but we cannot relate to the 17-year-olds anymore, and most of young adult books have 17-year-olds. And we are people who just want to see more, I don't know, even platonic relationships in new adult and adult fantasy. I myself, I'm surprised of how much of the sexual relationships are featured in new adult and adult fantasy, but it's not the only difference from the young adult books. So I think it's a niche that could be filled with more platonic relationships, and I'm trying to do that. Also, there are some things that are triggering. I couldn't avoid these topics, and those things would be violence and blood and even mention of suicidal behavior. I didn't try to portray that, but one of the characters and one of the pieces of the main story is about a character who committed suicide many years ago. Even in a fantasy setting, it's upsetting, but it's just a background, and some stuff happened, but I didn't try to, portray it in a wrong way or in a good way. It's nothing to be glorified. So yeah, and these topics of course could be causing some discomfort, especially for the sensitive readers, but I'm doing my best to keep them low-key. Yeah, so the first book is already in the first draft. I think I did some basic editing like grammar and style, at least a little bit of that, maybe twice, and now it's actually time for the bigger editing. I think I should do a big picture edit right after I finish the second book, and the second book is almost over. I'm currently around 21st, 22nd chapter, and there's not much left to do. There's lots of action going on, and I think I will finish it really soon. So when I finish that, I will put it to rest while I am editing the first one. Especially the beginning of the first book needs a lot of work because I started it I think almost 3 years ago. And yeah, it needs a lot of work because the story developed, and I think it should start a little bit differently. Not exactly, well, not events would not be different, but maybe it should, I don't know, the setting should be a little bit different, and all the things that kick off the story, the inciting incident, should be told in a different way. I still need to think about it, but before I finish this second book, the second and last book, I cannot do that. Another story that I'm very eager to jump back to writing, or actually plotting it, not writing. And right now I'm even looking at all the material that I created and gathered throughout the years and trying to actually remake it and remove any things that are straight out of my favorite books and video games, just some copied stuff. And that is my epic fantasy story, and it has a very old working title, The Book of Giants. I don't know if the title will remain the same, because the story as well is, growing and changing throughout the years, and it's still not even in the first draft, and who knows, it might change a lot. So I mentioned it, I think, already several times in my previous videos, that I call it my lifetime project, because I've been working on it and world building for years, and until I just decided to move on, because I was getting nowhere, and also I knew that I don't have enough skills at the time or knowledge to write it properly, because you look at other stories like that and you suddenly feel that imposter syndrome, where you just think that your stories are just copies, or you're not good enough for this craft. But I decided to look into that. I started slowly learning the craft and just, trying podcasts and reading some blogs like The Right Practice. I think that was one of the main blogs that I was following, and also Writing Excuses podcast and Brandon Sanderson's lectures on writing and some other stuff. So in general, I didn't pick up any special books for creative writing or didn't take any special classes. I didn't pay for classes like that, but I just used my free time, like lunch breaks and stuff in between work, and slowly started, gathering the knowledge, and now I'm feeling much more confident, and I know that right now is much better time to write this fantasy than it was many years ago. For the moment, I have 2 separate books in mind. The second book is not exactly a sequel, and I would say these 2 are more like a spin-off of each other, though the story is intertwined and it's happening chronologically around the same time, but with completely different characters and places. So, speaking about the first book, or the story that kicks off all the events in the world. At first I thought I will write it through the eyes of the main character, and her name is Mariel. And I thought I will write it in third-person point of view. But now, after writing my witchy project in first-person point of view, I realized how much limited I was with only that one character, and I feel like I need more point of views in this epic fantasy, because otherwise it won't be that epic anymore. And it will read more like another young adult book, which I don't want. So in my witchy project, I felt very limited to what I can see and what I can feel or what I can talk about, and in what things my character can participate without making it look forced. So the world building was limited too, and in this epic fantasy I want to show the world that I made and how big and diverse it is, and I want to create a sense of greatness and send my characters on much bigger adventures than the ones in my witchy project. At first I was even thinking it might be way too difficult for me to cope with more than one point of view, and I didn't even think about it too much until I read several books with multiple point of views. And when I realized how much fun they were, I think what changed my mind about it was Six of Crows by Leigh Bardugo. I really had so much fun reading those books, and I think it was the first time when I started thinking that this might be what I actually need to do with my epic fantasy story. So for now I decided to have 4 point of views. At some point in the story, they all, well, not all, but they are split up in pairs, but not romantically involved. So it will be much more interesting to follow the events in the world, and I think it's a good thing, because you can see more of the world and more of the people and the traditions and everything, so my world building will pay off. And I think there is a possibility for a 5th point of view, but at the moment I don't think it's a good idea. I don't know if I can manage that many. Even 4 point of views is a lot, even though not all of them are introduced instantly, but who knows. I will need a lot of plotting, and I'm still not that experienced writer, so we will see how it goes. And the second book in the same quote-unquote universe, I think it would have at least 2 point of views, maybe more, but at the moment I just have some ideas and I did some brainstorming quite a long while ago. I need to return to all these things that I wrote. But yeah, nothing is decided and there's not much to talk about it. I just know the inciting incidents and at least a little bit about the end, what should happen in the end and where the characters should end up. And it's important to know these moments because they intertwine with the first book and might even show up in the first book. I still don't know. That's why I need to rework the framework for the first one, because there's lots of stuff that happens in between and I need to see how the timeline works and if it's possible to do that, to introduce the characters maybe in the end of the first book. We'll see. So yeah, that's my future project. I'm really looking forward to jump back to it because it's been a long while since I worked on that, and the story needs to be updated for my current skills and updated with more ideas. So yeah, I think that's all for today. I hope you enjoyed the bullet journal spread that I did. As you saw, it was very simple. I was just going with the flow. I didn't look up any specific trackers and anything. I was just doing what I do usually and just trying to be more creative with doodles and stuff. And I also hope you enjoyed a little update on my actual writing projects, because I don't talk enough about them. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe if you would like to see more. I post videos on Thursdays, so I will see you next week. Have a nice day and bye bye.